Welcome to Veterans Views Podcast from the JED TV studios on the campus of Purdue Northwest in Hammond, Indiana. Now here are your hosts, Connie Karras and Steve Bramer.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to Veterans Views Podcast. I am your Marine Corps host, Connie Karras, and I am here with another wonderful Marine. How are you, Donna Dunn?
Awesome. How are you?
I'm doing well.
Happy to be here.
Yes, I'm happy you are here, and we also have our co-host, Steve Bramer. How are you, sir?
I'm doing awesome. How are you?
Doing great. Beautiful summer day.
Yeah.
Beautiful summer day. And we have a great show today. We have so much to talk about with the two wonderful guests that we have here, who I will introduce in just a moment. Lots going on in the United States of America, and we're hoping to have a really, really stimulating, interesting, and productive discussion about it. So today we have two guests. We have Mr. Jim Rosine. He was discharged as a sergeant from the United States Army, and he served from 1965 to 1967 at Fort Knox, Kentucky. And, sir, your MOS was 11 Echo Armored Crewman. Is that correct?
That's correct.
That's right. And welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here. And we also have with us Sabrina Hake, who is a columnist and 25-year federal trial attorney specializing in First and 14th U.S. Constitutional Amendment defense. She has advised Indiana governors of both parties, or then by, advised Gary's former mayor Jerome Prince, and represented the City of Chicago's Board of Education in federal court for 15 years. Sabrina also writes a legal and political substack called The Hake Take, which is free. And welcome to the show, Sabrina. Thank you so much for being with us to discuss all of these important goings-on in our wonderful, beautiful United States of America this morning.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Thank you. So we do have a lot to talk about, and as everyone here knows, this podcast, Veterans Views Podcast, is designed, it was conceived so that we can talk about issues affecting our beloved veteran communities and the United States of America, things that we do not talk about on the radio show, because the radio show, Veterans Views Radio Show, is under the umbrella of the American Legion. And the American Legion is bipartisan. It is not political. We place above all else veterans first. So we do not talk about controversial subjects. However, that does not mean that there are not pressing controversial subjects that we need to talk about. And that's what this podcast is for. And so today we're going to talk about a lot of things that are affecting our country right now in the United States and globally. So what I wanted to talk about, and I think a lot of people probably know by now, that an unprecedented event took place. The California National Guard was actually federalized by the President of the United States to quell what was claimed to be some rioting in Los Angeles, California. And subsequent to that, the President also activated 700 active duty Marines from 29 Palms, California. And this is actually something I want to address because it's an unprecedented act, and Sabrina, correct me if I'm wrong, was it done illegally as well? Please tell us what's going on with that situation.
Well, that's a loaded question. It depends who you ask. And yes, if you just read the text of the law that he went in with, so there are a couple of statutes in play. I want to make clear first that the foundation of all of the opposition to what's happening is we've heard the Posse Comitatus Act, which sounds like a vulgar phrase, but it's an old statute that says you can't use American troops against Americans on American soil unless there are very specifically enumerated circumstances that warrant it. Those circumstances aren't present in LA. the big one is the governor asking for it. So the last time governors troops were nationalized was in the 60s when George Wallace, when we were having the racial issues with the desegregation order. And in that case, the governor asked for federal troops to be nationalized because the rioting was out of control. We are so far from that. Nothing has happened. 3 unmanned cars, the auto driver cars, were set on fire. We don't know by whom. And other than that, and 1 store was looted, but that's no more than happens, when a championship has been lost or won. I mean, these are very... Right. Violence is never okay. It's never correct. Always be peaceful when you protest. But to escalate it intentionally, which is what Trump has done. Trump's overall goal is to declare martial law. That has been clear from the get-go.
Very dangerous. Very dangerous, yes.
Kristi Noem has announced that the reason that we're not going anywhere, we meaning ICE and the federal authorities, and she said the purpose of sending ICE and the Guard into LA was to liberate the state and city from the communists they have elected. I don't know if she really meant to say what she said, but if you examine what she said, she's saying we are going to use federal forces for political reasons to end governance by Democrats. And you have to understand that only 1/3 of the country voted for Trump. And I don't assume they're all racist. I don't assume they're all nefarious actors. But he won by 1.5%. That's not a mandate. But the bulk of American voters didn't vote at all. So 90 million people who could have voted.
Shame on them. Yes,
it's a shame. But to use that and say we have a mandate now to liberate the country from Democrat rulers, it's a declaration of war. It's a declaration of civil war. And I don't want to say too much about what she said because she may have been speaking off the cuff. I don't think she's the brightest bulb, but setting that aside, I don't want to inflame because right now there's a lot of inflammation going. But back to your question, that Pars Comitatus has been violated. There is no rebellion. None of the circumstances that are required under the Constitution to send federal troops in have been met, and Trump is doing it deliberately. He has wanted from day one to impose martial law because it will keep him in power.
Mm-hmm. Well, so I'll be honest with you. When I see what's going on, first thing I think of is like 4 or 5 years ago when they had all those riots from...
in 2020.
Yeah,
cities were destroyed.
Yeah, when the whole George Floyd thing.
Floyd.
Yeah. So I think when it comes to, and like I said, and this is just me, but when I see it and I see that there's people throwing stuff at the cops out there, I can kind of see why they are sending troops out there.
But my question is, they had riots in New York. They didn't send federal people to New York. Why is that?
Yeah.
Because the cops did
their job.
Let me just say,
your impression of what I believe your impression of what's going on in LA is dictated 100% by the media you consume. Mm-hmm. If you read the New York Times, the LA Times, any of the mainstream media, you see 3 unmanned cars and 1 looting episode with 1 store. If you watch Fox News, you see what looks like a war. Fox is 24/7 propaganda to support.
They are all propaganda.
Yeah, they all are.
They are all propaganda. They taint the news to fit their narrative, whatever that narrative, whether it's left or right.
Anyone who sees LA as a war zone isn't listening to what the LA people are saying, which is get the hell out of here. This is not a war zone. This is not even as bad as what happens after a championship. Mm-hmm. And to send the federal troops in endangers the troops. I want to say a little bit more about that because when you politicize the American troops, if you look at what Trump did at Fort Bragg when he got uniformed Army soldiers to chant against the former president and to chant against the media, politicizing the military puts them in danger. Think of this.
I agree with you.
Over half the country did not vote for Trump. And now Trump is saying these are my soldiers and we're going to use them for political purposes. That can turn the entire country against the troops. It is dangerous for the troops, which is what Newsom has been saying. And the FBI, all the law enforcement agencies in the country tell you to de-escalate these situations. Do not show don't go in and try to overpower people, because that will instantly turn them into violent riots.
And that's why it's wrong to send combat troops to do that, because combat troops are not trained in de-escalation like the police and those kind of people are. You got these.
They had 2 hours worth of training.
Right. They went to a seminar for
exactly.
a day. But you've got these young troops with weapons, and they're trained how to kill people and break things. That's what the military is designed for.
Right.
And now you want them to police people, and that's not what they're trained for. That's not their purpose. And that's why my opinion. That's why I am.
When that happened, that turned bad was Katrina.
Yes.
And they sent in the National Guard because the cops couldn't access some of these areas.
Yeah.
And they were shooting looters, and it got bad.
Yes.
You're right.
Very bad.
We're trained to kill when we're in the military.
Absolutely.
Right. Do you guys remember when the George Floyd protests were going on after the George Floyd?
You mean the riots?
Yes. When those riots were going on, Trump had a meeting with Mark Milley and the Secretary of Defense at the time, Mark Esper. And this was widely publicized, and I just know this because I just put it in a column that's coming out tomorrow. He said to Milley, "Why can't we just shoot the protesters? I don't understand."
Shoot them in the legs.
Yes.
Yes. And it hung like a pall over the meeting. And apparently he kept bringing it up after that meeting. Milley, of course, shot it down, and then Trump took away his security detail and now wants to have him executed. But Mark Esper was so upset about that request that he issued a formal statement saying, "I do not agree with imposing the Insurrection Act in these civil unrest situations." And that so pissed off Trump. He's been obsessed with declaring martial law ever since, because he was thwarted. And that's why he supported a Secretary of Defense who is woefully unqualified. And Hegseth is on record as defending people, soldiers, who shoot the enemy, however that's defined, indiscriminately. So Trump set this whole thing up so that he would be able to send in the military to quell civil unrest and to actually create civil unrest so that he can escalate it beyond the posse comitatus and say, look, there's a rebellion. Well, he caused the rebellion.
Well, the government's been notorious for using agent provocateurs to infiltrate different groups to get the groups to become rioters and violent, and they're the one, so to think that our government isn't involved in every step of this is naive, in my opinion. Because they are.
Back to the Insurrection Act and declaring martial law, something Trump has wanted to do since the George Floyd protests, where he was thwarted from doing that by the Secretary of Defense, Mark Esper, and the Joint Chief of Staff, Mark Milley, who he now wants to have executed for that reason.
And with regard to what's really going on there, I'm going to play a video. I implore everybody, not only always, but especially right in these trying times, fact check everything you access anywhere, because there is so much mis and disinformation out there. It's so difficult. Things look real. You can't tell.
If you think the CIA doesn't control the media, you got another thing coming. I just finished a book by a CIA agent, and I can't remember his name right off the top of my head.
Oh, that'd be a good podcast.
And it was fascinating
episode.
This guy was a CIA agent for years, and in the big chapter on his book, one of the big chapters was about how the CIA controls the media by embedding people, because one of the points he brought up, which I had never thought about, was during Watergate. How did a reporter, I know I'm getting off topic here, but how did a reporter who'd only been a reporter for 1 year have Deep Throat as his source? How do you think that happened? That didn't just happen by accident.
Oh, I never thought of
Bob
that.
Bob Woodward was a former CIA agent as well, which I did not know.
I didn't know that either.
Yeah, so I tell people I love to read different things. You have to go to other sources to find out this information, because what we're being spoon-fed by the mainstream media is like I said before, is from their point of view, the narrative that they want to push, whether it's left or right, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It's their narrative that they want to push, and we as Americans, citizens, need to do our, like you said, Connie, we need to do our due diligence.
We need to do our homework. Absolutely.
Don't rely on a meme on Facebook for your information.
And don't reshare it mindlessly. The damage of that type of propaganda campaign is look what's happening in our country. But with respect to the LA situation, I always want to go to the source. And, of course, going to L.A. is not an option. And I do know right? And I don't.
Yeah, right.
I know people in L.A., but I have not talked to them.
Have you ever been to LA?
Right, I have actually. I was stationed at El Toro.
Oh, that's right. You were in El Toro. That's
Right. I was in Santana, and not very far from L.A. and been to L.A. many times. But I have been seeing people on social media repeatedly putting out videos who claim to live there. Here's one, and this woman
says, it a real video or is it AI?
I really don't know.
See, that's what scares me.
Those videos
I saw a news article this morning. They were
point.
showing a video of a commercial that was made, I forget for what product it was. The entire video cost them $2,000 to make, took 2 days, and it was all AI. None of the people were real. None of them. But looking at it,
that's crazy.
From an untrained eye, I couldn't tell.
Looks real.
Let's take this with a grain of salt. I'm still going to play it, and let's do our independent research. How does that sound? So let's I'm still going to play it, and this is what this woman has to say.
And we need to talk. If you don't live here, you are not seeing the full picture. And it's infuriating as a resident to see what's being portrayed in the media. I work in branding and marketing, and so we're going to look at this from a marketing perspective, because that is all this is. First of all, let's start off with some basic geography. Los Angeles is larger than most of the states where you all live. They're all the U.S. states with a smaller population than Los Angeles County. Talking about a county that is larger than 40 of the U.S. states. Why is that important? Because when CNN or Fox News shows you just a little small sampling of what's happening in Los Angeles, it is not the full picture. That is what we call creating a narrative. Not a new strategy. The Republicans happen to do it extremely well. Mega base wouldn't care to see a peaceful protest, so obviously they're not going to show that. No, this is what's happening today. You'll see this. You won't see this. If I wanted to change the narrative and show you what I want you to see, I would just show you this. Unlike Fox News, I will admit that yes, there has been violence, but the majority of things out there are peaceful. There wasn't violence until fear was instilled in the county by all of the news media telling us to freak out. There wasn't violence until you started seeing people in camo uniforms doing some illegal shit. The media is framing all of this without any context. Forgive us if there's fear, there's frustration on what's happening that should never have happened. Military vehicles rolling through the neighborhood. That's not normal. That instills fear. Fear instills panic. That's exactly what Trump and his administration want you to see.
All right. So, comments on that? I do believe that there should not be military presence there. I believe it does cause panic and fear. And what happens is you will see people behaving differently. That will change their behavior. This is being created. I agree with Sabrina. Thoughts on this? This is a created situation so that the president has a reason to declare martial law or invoke the Insurrection Act. And if we do have martial law, federalized troops in all 50 states, oh my gosh, I can't even imagine what kind of a situation we would find ourselves in.
Our country would be over.
Yes, it would. It would. And I do believe that is what he may be attempting to do. Sabrina, thoughts on that video?
Sure. Well, the whole thing, you all have been trained, you're military experts, counterinsurgency experts, as well as the FBI, as well as every police chief in every city in the entire country knows that you de-escalate. If you send in too much power in any situation, not just this one, any situation, it immediately escalates into violence. Counterinsurgency experts know this. There is no way to interpret what Trump has done other than a deliberate provocation. He is exactly doing what that person on the video said he's doing. He is creating a background under which he can declare martial law. Every military counterinsurgency expert is opposed to what he's doing, and it's clear that he's doing this specifically to declare martial law because he is trying to instigate violence. It also violates California's own penal code that makes it illegal to escalate riots into violent or protesters into violence. So there can't be any question about why he's doing this. But you, as people who come from the military know, this is the exact opposite of what you're supposed to do. If you go to Trump's own FBI website today, you will see a whole tome about de-escalation, how you never escalate, and they have specific steps that you take to de-escalate. He's violating everything on his own FBI website. It's not possible that he doesn't know what he's doing.
Right. And go ahead, Steve.
So I kind of disagree with that a little bit because it's not really feasible to always try to de-escalate. Sometimes you have to overwhelm with firepower. And that's just like a military acronym that we go by, because when we were out, I was out in Iraq for the first elections, and we had some protests, and the whole concept was to win the hearts and minds, okay, which is what we were supposed to do up until things got sketchy. Then it was we bring everybody in and overwhelm them and disperse. And I think I agree with you about the military part because you could kind of see it. Did you hear what she said on that video? She said, then you got people in camo doing illegal things, right? That's the perception you don't want. Well,
these troops who are going to listen to their commander-in-chief are being used as pawns to do.
What happens if one of them shoots a civilian on accident?
Yes, right.
Not on purpose, on accident.
When is that going to happen?
Has an accidental discharge and then hits a civilian. Now, who is it? Whose law is he covered under?
Right.
Is it covered under the rules of engagement, or is it covered under civilian penalties?
Right.
Shouldn't be
Don't
putting
you think that
military
overwhelming
people
by
in there.
firepower? I hear what you're saying. Overwhelming firepower is completely different in a war zone. You're talking about overwhelming firepower in public protests, civil, peaceful protests.
It's a totally different situation.
Completely different.
Yes.
You don't have overwhelming firepower against American citizens. Now, Trump is saying that he's going to send the military to all of these protests. He's preemptively saying, we're going to attack you for peaceful protest. It's an outrage. What's happening is an outrage. And there's no way to defend it by saying this is what you do, because this is not what you do. What you're describing is a war strategy, not a strategy for handling civil protests in America, where we still have a First Amendment.
And also yesterday, as I'm sure probably everybody here is aware, another unprecedented event took place that was rather alarming. Alex Padilla.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. He
Ridiculous.
was representing California. The Homeland Security Secretary was giving a press conference in the same building where he has his office, and everybody knows who he is. She instructed ICE agents to shove him. He walked in
and wanted to ask a question. Announced who he was.
He was shoved out of the room violently, tackled to the floor, face down, handcuffed.
You don't think that was staged, the whole thing?
Handcuffed. And then afterward, Noam claimed she didn't even know who she was. So this is such unprecedented times that we've seen. This is an elected official peacefully approaching her, and this is what officials do. This is what elected officials do. They ask questions. They ask questions peacefully. They use their voice. They serve we the people.
I don't know about that. I mean, just look at New Jersey and those people that were trying to get into that ICE facility. They weren't being very peaceful, I mean,
we saw this.
We saw this. It's on tape. He was being peaceful.
News allowed Fox News had Kristi Noem immediately on Fox lying about what happened. She said, I didn't know who he was. He lunged at me. We all saw exactly what happened. He identified who he was and asked if he could ask a question at a press conference, which is set up to ask questions.
Why didn't he have his Senate badge on?
His office is there. Everybody knows who he is.
Look. Have you been to DC? We have a lot of senators. I wouldn't know a lot of senators by looking at them. I mean,
well, his colleagues said everybody knew everybody
I don't
involved.
know if I believe that.
So
even if he's a stranger, why would they tackle him?
Why would they tackle somebody for being peaceful anyway? So I mean, good point, Sabrina.
It's okay. May have been peaceful, but were they correct in what they were doing? Like they were just barging into what seems to be a press conference that was called by the person that was speaking. Look, and I'm just playing devil's advocate here. You know, like you can look at it from two different angles, right? I think,
barring him going in there and threatening her, this was an absolute overreach and abuse of power.
See,
really.
but you look at it as overreach, but then I look at it as, well, you know what? Maybe he was asking for it. You know, maybe you shouldn't have barged in there and started asking questions in front of cameras. Like, you know, maybe you should have done it a different way.
Well, what would help if
what
would help is if Noam and the administration would actually answer some questions to begin with, and then when they do answer questions under congressional questioning, not lie about what's going on. So,
you don't think everybody in the government lies to Congress? There's no repercussions for lying to Congress.
No.
They've been doing it for years. They've been caught in lies, and I'm not saying it's Democrats or Republicans. It's both. They lie to Congress, but they find out, you know, maybe the year after or whenever that they've been lying to Congress. Oh well, so what? Nothing happens to them. And there's supposed to be, that's a federal crime to lie to Congress. There should be repercussions for that, regardless of who you are.
You know, it's funny because you know who gets charged with that is people from a previous administration after the fact.
You know who gets charged with that?
It happens like the past 4 administrations.
If one of us walked into Congress and was sworn to tell the truth and we lied to Congress, our butts would be in jail faster than you can spell jail.
Yeah.
But the powers that be, who really could give a shit about us, regardless of party, they don't care about us. They don't care what happens to us.
It's almost like the nuances. It's almost like they want us talking about these little petty things.
Yes,
and they're doing these big things
what's the
in the
big thing we're missing right now?
If you're worried about all the lying, what are we going to do about the cabinet that we have?
If you can call that a cabinet.
One of those people have lied about whatever, you know,
they all grossly incompetent, grossly unqualified. It's just,
I mean, at this point in time, I kind of feel like we're way beyond that point. We're in deep trouble.
You know, the government hasn't used the Constitution in the last, 60, 70 years? So why would we start now? You know, we don't follow it anymore. We haven't for years. The last time our country followed the Constitution when we sent our young people to die in a foreign land was World War II.
Yeah.
We haven't had a legally declared war since World War II. But yet our Congress and our government has no problem sending our young people to die in a foreign country. And look at what happened with Israel and Iran just yesterday. And they have no problem sending us to die in a foreign country. But God forbid when we come back and we want to get our benefits.
It's funny how nobody wants to give up those war powers either.
No, they do not.
President Trump still has the legal authority to do stuff overseas he shouldn't.
But see, what they do is they're like, okay, I want my guy to be able to do this. And not thinking about what happens when it's not your guy anymore.
Yeah.
Or your girl or whatever. Then the other people have the same power to do what you wanted your person to do. Oh, now everybody's pissed off.
See, Sabrina, were you going to say something as well?
It's kind of a tangent. It's not. I would be really frightened if I had a son or a daughter in the military. I am truly scared for our service members. Hegseth is so unqualified in the fact that he's sending war plans. I mean, this is old news too. But this is man making these decisions to put these people in harm's way. And in LA, it's not if, it's when someone gets shot and the shooting crossfire starts. He's putting troops in danger, and I'm horrified for American service members.
And what's going to happen when some 19-year-old basement dweller gets in the face of some young corporal or sergeant and just stands there and starts yelling at him or throws a brick at him? You don't think that person's going to respond? No. Oh, hell yeah, they are.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yes. And by politicizing the military like he did at Fort Bragg, Trump delivered a MAGA rally speech to these assembled Army soldiers.
Yeah, it was embarrassing.
So disrespectful.
Yes.
Awful to those children. I'm sorry, they were kids. And getting them to boo a president of the United States, getting them to boo the media in attendance, this only goes one direction. It's fascism, 100%, and the people who are going to suffer for it are the people in uniform.
And you know the problem is, right now, they don't like being in the news like this.
No.
We don't want to have troops in California and
No.
have people talking about it
No.
like this,
Right.
or the military parade. How
Right.
dumb is that?
Yeah.
How dumb is that to have a military parade? We are not
Only
China.
fascists do
Well,
that.
but
Yes.
we're
Come
celebrating the 250th
What are we gonna
birthday.
have?
Yeah.
Cruise
You know,
missiles
let's go
going
have
down the
a
street?
beer and a piece of cake or something. I don't know, but we don't need all those tanks running up and down Pennsylvania
happens to be the
Avenue.
POTUS's 79th birthday. So this is in his mind a birthday bash.
That's what it's all about.
At the great expense, not only financially, but collective soul-wise of the United States of America. It's just, I don't even know how to put it into words how atrocious that is and what an abuse.
Trump likes the imagery of tanks on American city streets. He
Yeah.
likes that imagery. It makes him feel strong because he knows only about 25% of the country supports him. The Quinnipiac poll that just came out, and these are registered voters. 34% approve of him. 65% disapprove. He knows this, and it's just going to get worse. The only thing that will keep him in power and keep him away from legal accountability is having martial law and tanks on the streets. I'm surprised. I knew he was going to do that. I've been writing about this since he was campaigning, saying he's going to put the military on the streets. This has been going on. This has been in plan for a long time. I'm surprised it's happened this quickly, though.
Well, he wanted
It's
to do it
astounding.
back in his first administration.
But it was
true.
true.
Exactly.
It was nearly, the expenditure apparently would have been near $100 million that he was quoted. And from what I've read, and I don't know if this is true or not, he said it was too expensive. Now apparently, now apparently $45 million is what it's going to cost. But that's. Are you kidding me? All of the cost of shipping it since June 2nd from Texas by freight, and then the damage that's going to be done, it's going to be over
$18 million to fix the roads that tanks are going to destroy. I mean, it's asinine. It is so embarrassing and dangerous.
So
I'm trying to figure out the damage part.
The track.
No. You know, I'm an armored crewman.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
You would know. Yeah.
We had rubber track blocks on our tanks.
Oh, yeah.
At Knox. And they ran up and down the highway all the time. They never tore up our highways.
Oh, yeah.
Now,
I didn't know that.
if you've got combat tanks, that's a whole different story.
Okay.
But, you know,
Why is there a difference between tanks and track vehicles?
Well, tanks run on
Is it
tires,
because they're
right?
heavier?
no, tanks
No,
are
they got
track.
Oh, are
Yeah,
they? I thought.
yeah.
Well, I'm thinking of.
But you got there's APCs.
But-
that
Oh,
are
yeah, okay,
lighter.
that might
They
be what I'm
got
thinking of.
tracks too. I mean,
Yeah.
depending on, you know, but this whole idea that we're going to run, you know, combat vehicles and maybe there's no provision anymore. I don't know, you know, as far as being able to, you know, maybe we were left. I mean, the tanks. We've got Abrams now. I was in M48s.
Are they gonna have
Nobody knows what an
are they gonna have
M48 is
cruise
anymore.
Missiles too. I know.
Yeah.
No, we don't have any more of those. Remember?
I looked at what
So dumb.
an article discussing what would be there. I believe there very well might be. If I can't read. No, don't
That's
quote me on that. But I
crazy.
thought I saw something.
That's
There will be munitions there. I can't remember exactly what. I'll have to go look at the article again. I should have it in front of me. But
And it makes me so mad. I won't even be able to watch it.
What's that
because-
North Korean
Kim
leader?
Jong Un.
Yeah, he'll be
or Kim
he'll
Jong
be
Il,
proud.
whichever one is in power
He'll
now.
be proud of it.
Oh yeah.
This
You know,
so
and,
dumb.
and if
That's
you think
so
back to the
dumb.
80s, you know, it was peace through strength, yes. But we didn't run it up and down the damn street,
Yeah, right.
you know?
Bingo.
So I talked about this. I'm just going to switch gears for just a second. Steve and I talked about this about a month ago when you and we recorded a podcast that accidentally got deleted, and so it's not going to drop. But we talked about how disturbed I was when all of this started, all of these abuses of power that were being committed by the administration really had me concerned because as a United States Marine Corps veteran, an enlisted United States Marine Corps veteran, I took an oath upon enlistment. And at that time, I didn't see a lot, and I'm going to read the oath. And then I want to have a discussion about this and play a video of another Marine, a 21-year combat Marine, United States Marine Corps veteran, who has something to say about this too. And since over the ensuing month, since I first talked about this with you, Steve, I've seen a lot of people, likewise, posting to social media recordings of themselves talking about how they took oaths and their enlistment oaths, like ours, promised to defend the U.S. Constitution. Not a person, not a party, period.
Not a commander-in-chief.
Yes. However, here's the thing. The oath of enlistment that I took when I was enlisted in the Marine Corps in 1988 included allegiance to the President of the United States. This is the oath of enlistment that I took. I, Constance Karras, do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, that I will obey the orders of the President of the United States and the orders of the officers appointed over me according to regulations and the Uniform Code of Military Justice. So help me God. Look at your UCMJ people.
Yes.
So it's not blind allegiance. And even though the crafter of this oath clearly did not envision that that we would see the day when the President of the United States did not uphold the Constitution, swear to defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic, even though it didn't envision that, there are provisions that did. There is a document that did foresee that day, and that's the United States Constitution. And maybe Sabrina, you can speak to how the Constitution addresses that. But first, I would like to play a video of this United States Marine Corps veteran. He's a 21-year veteran of the United States Marine Corps. His name is Rob Connect. And let's go ahead and listen to that right now.
You've got to be kidding me. My name is Rob Connect. I'm a 21-year U.S. Marine Corps infantry combat veteran. I spent 9 of those years at Marine Corps Base Camp Pendleton. At 18, I raised my right hand and swore to support and defend the Constitution of the United States. There's also a really important Marine Corps recruiting poster that I've seen many times. It says that Marines are the vanguard of democracy. Well, democracy means government of the people, by the people, for the people. So I never thought that I would see the day that we would sink to persecuting our own fellow American citizens, making us the enemy. Marines do 2 things really well: death and destruction. We wreck the place, and we make people unalive. So tell me why we are threatening to send our most deadly shock troops into a U.S. city, Los Angeles, the city of angels, to protect who? I appreciate what Mike Levin has been doing for us, but Mike can't do it by himself. I'm calling all veterans, you, American patriot who has bled for this flag, step out of the shadows, remember the reason that you raised your right hand and you swore your oath. As it always has been, history is written by those who step up to answer the call of our nation in its moments of weakness. You are needed now.
More than ever.
Well, we're not a democracy. We're a constitutional
republic.
We're a
constitutional republic, and I think we can. Let's ask Sabrina about this. Are we not categorized basically as a liberal democracy?
Well, liberal is kind of a loaded phrase.
Okay.
A constitutional
representative democracy.
Right. It's not directly one-on-one because senators have a disproportionate representation. A state with 500 people has 2 senators. A state with 50 billion people has 2 senators.
Right.
So that's what makes it not a directly representative democracy.
At another time, I would love to pick her brain about her thoughts about the direct election of senators, but that's a whole other issue.
Yeah, that's another topic. But yeah, Connie, you're right. You swear an oath to defend the Constitution and the country. This is Mike Pence in his finest hour when he refused to do what Trump asked him to do and set aside the 2020 election. He said, I swore an oath to defend the Constitution, not a man. And that's the whole premise from George Washington on, that where we rejected the whole idea of a monarchy because you swear to the law, you never swear to a man. And Trump is trying to take 250 years of history and turn it on its head. And I love what that soldier said. What we do is we go in and we wreck the place and we make people unalive. It's exactly right. And he what that young man just said is why you don't send troops into these situations. You make people start to distrust the military and hate them. And that's a dangerous thing to do to our service members. They don't deserve that. And they didn't sign up to do that.
Right. And I think a key point in that whole oath is against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
Right. Hey, as far as I'm concerned, that allows people to go
the Tree of Liberty. And I know I'm going to mess up this quote by one of our founding fathers. Is the Tree of Liberty needs to be made with blood? Never mind. I'm going to screw it up. But there comes a time when we, the people, we are the people. This government is ours, and we create, and we've allowed all this stuff to happen. Like I said before, because it's okay when my guy did it, but I don't want your guy to do it.
Yeah.
So we pass all these laws, and I'm no constitutional scholar by any stretch of the imagination, but I do know a little bit to be dangerous, I guess. But we
you're an American.
But we've allowed this to tread so far from our Constitution and now we're seeing the results of years and years and years of allowing this to go on. And I think we as the American people need to stand up and take some responsibility for what we've allowed to happen.
Thomas Jefferson, the Tree of Liberty must be refreshed from time to time with the blood of patriots and tyrants.
Yes.
Oh.
Yes.
That's the one I was thinking of.
Yeah. The blood of tyrants.
Well, under some definitions, Trump is an enemy of the state.
Yes.
He is going in to destroy our norms, destroy the separation of powers, destroy the judiciary. He is the enemy. So what does it say about your sworn oath to defend us against him? What are you going to do about it, soldiers?
That's tough, because I would really like to believe that our American military would not shoot Americans. But if you study history and you study what happened in Germany and you study what happened in Japan and you study what happened in Korea, it happened there.
And in Ohio.
And at Kent State in the 60s. You know? So it will happen if we continue on this track.
Oh, there's no question. He's doing everything he can to escalate the violence. There's going to be bloodshed in every city run by Democrats. There's no question. That's his goal. He wants to declare martial law so that he can suspend the midterms and stay in power, because he never wants to be held to legal account again. This is all about keeping him out of prison.
And the midterms are a ways off. I mean, I don't know if we even have time.
He's doing this so quickly. I'm surprised he's doing it this quickly. I've been predicting this would happen, but I thought it would happen about a year and a half in, when the midterms start gearing up.
Yeah,
he's doing this now.
Well, you see, Americans have such a short attention span. You know, what's happening today,
right.
You know, by the time the midterms come along, most people will be like, well, that was last year. We don't care about that.
Exactly. We didn't even remember J6.
Right.
Right. And, I want to bring something else up, too, speaking of short attention spans. He, by many people, as we all know, has been compared to Hitler and other tyrants, right? Other dictators. And
he's not a dictator yet.
No, but he wants to be. So he's on a fast track. So, and we must not let that happen. And these are my opinions. And let me tell you, these opinions that are, by the way, disclaimer, the opinions in this podcast, in this Veterans Views podcast, do not necessarily reflect the opinions of any WJOB Jed TV staff. They do not reflect the opinions of the American Legion. They do not reflect the opinions of any American Legion post, the founding Post 168, the current post under which Veterans Views Radio show is under right now, my post, American Legion Post 16. I want to put that out there. It does not also represent any opinions necessarily of any of the sponsors or the contributors of Veterans Views. So let us put that out there right now. This is my opinion, my own opinion, me, myself, and I. We three. There you go. So I do want to bring something else up, too, though, that is extremely important. I wanted to discuss, actually, that you and I, Steve, discussed when we recorded that podcast about 6 weeks ago. And this has me so disturbed because even in Trump's first term, first off, let me set this up, the foundation of this. My grandparents fled their countries because of ethnic cleansing. My paternal grandparents fled Turkey. They were Greek Orthodox Christians living in Turkey, Muslim-controlled Turkey, and my maternal grandparents fled Greece, and during terrible civil war, and they fled with basically their clothes on their back, very little belongings. My maternal grandparents probably would have been slaughtered had they not been able to get a fisherman to take them away from their village in Kavala. And they came to the United States, just as my paternal grandparents did, with so little. They didn't speak English. They were treated like so many immigrants. They were welcomed into the United States of America with open arms for a new life. They had a lot of difficulty because they had trauma from what they had experienced. They were considered, we labeled them what's called displaced people, and oftentimes labeled them as stupid because they didn't speak English. Nonetheless, they were welcomed into this country. I wouldn't be talking to anybody right now or be here if it wasn't for the fact that the United States welcomed them with open arms. Lady Liberty. So, since Trump's first term, he's been using terms that have also been used by Hitler, Stalin, Mussolini, and other. Those aren't not just those three. It's not just those three have been using these terms to devalue humans, and it's dehumanizing language that's been brought for the first time into American presidential politics, and words like. And this is an article by Anne Applebaum, Anne-A-N-N-E, Applebaum, A-P-P-L-E-B-A-U-M. If anybody wants to look this up, it's called Trump is Speaking Like Hitler, Stalin, and Mussolini. So rhetoric has a history. I'm going to read a little bit of this, not the entire article. The words democracy and tyranny were debated in ancient Greece. The phrase separation of powers became important in the 17th and 18th century. The word vermin, V-E-R-M-I-N, as a political term dates from the 1930s and 40s when both fascists and communists liked to describe their political enemies as vermin, parasites, and blood infections, as well as insects, weeds, dirt, and animals. The term has been revived and reanimated in an American presidential campaign with Donald Trump's description of his opponents as, quote-unquote, radical left thugs who, quote-unquote, live like vermin. So this language isn't merely ugly or repellent. These words belong to a particular tradition. Adolf Hitler used these words, these kinds of terms, often. In 1938, he praised his compatriots who had helped, quote, cleanse Germany of all those parasites who drank at the well of the despair of the fatherland and the people, end quote. In occupied Warsaw, a 1941 poster displayed a drawing of a louse with a caricature of a Jewish face. The slogan, quote, Jews are lice, they cause typhus, unquote. Germans, by contrast, were clean, pure, healthy, and vermin-free. Hitler once described the Nazi flag as, quote, the victorious sign of freedom and the purity of our blood, unquote. And Stalin used the same kind of language at about the same time, and he called his opponents the enemies of the people, implying that they were not citizens and that they enjoyed no rights. And he also portrayed them as vermin, pollution, filth that had to be, quote, unquote, subjected to ongoing purification, end quote, and he inspired his fellow communists to employ similar rhetoric. I'm not going to read the whole article. You get the point. We're seeing this right now with the administration, with also a certain individual named Stephen Miller. We are devaluing human beings and putting them on a level, calling them vermin. And the effect that this has had since Trump's first, I've seen the collective shift in the soul of America. It deeply disturbs me. Deeply disturbs me. Now look where we're at. What are we going to do about this? Thoughts? Anybody jump in.
Well, I have one question. Okay. You know, I understand the head problem. You know, okay, fine, you know. I personally think he's a lunatic. He's not doing anything to promote democracy and so forth. But my question becomes, what's the matter with the rest of the Republican Party? There's going to be, okay, fine, we're going to hook on, your wagon and fly with you and so forth. But overall, how in heaven's name can, Republican senators, our senators here, who voted for every one of those people who are in the cabinet, oh, yeah, that's fine.
The only one to dissent is Thomas Massey and Rand Paul.
Yeah.
They are the only two level-headed Republicans, in my opinion.
And there are a few others out there. We've got to.
Do you want? I can answer that.
You can.
Yeah, I can. And you're not gonna like it. So,
probably not.
So and I'm gonna put this in my perspective, okay? Because is that the stuff that Connie read right now? Is that good to hear? No.
Yeah.
But I'll accept it. I will accept that. Then the alternative, which was the past 4 years. I would rather have him talking and saying stupid things, but doing things that I agree with, as opposed to somebody who's talking nice and doing things that I don't agree with.
What things did you not agree with in the last 4 years?
So, okay, let me give you an example, okay?
Yeah.
So, I feel like this is a product of 4 years of bad policy, okay? Think about it. It must have been pretty bad the past 4 years for Trump to be elected. I don't think Trump got elected because people liked him. I think people voted for Trump because they didn't like what the Democrats were doing. For example, they're saying now there was 10 to 15 million illegal immigrants that came into the United States during those 4 years of Biden. Okay.
What time is it?
Okay.
That number changes by what time it is.
We saw with our own eyes. I mean,
you did.
Thousands and thousands of people coming across that border. Yeah, every day,
yes,
thousands.
Every day.
So, I don't like the way he talks, but you know what? I'll take that over those past 4 years for that particular issue.
And I remember when we talked about this the first time. Hold on just a second, Jim, and I certainly absolutely will let you express your opinions here. You told me you were giving him a buy on that type of hatred that he's spreading, and that shocked me. That really did, because if we are electing somebody because we didn't like the previous administration, right? Yet there is so much historical factual proof in front of us that the rule of law and the Constitution, Project 2025, for instance, we know what's in that, and we know very much so what we've been warned what he's trying to do, which is basically change the Constitution and make the rule of law. He thinks he's above the rule of law. In other words,
he can't change the Constitution. You can't just willy-nilly change the U.S. Constitution. It requires, if you follow the Constitution, like I said before, the government really doesn't, but to change the actual document takes a lot more than one person.
Yeah, and I know Sabrina, you can speak to this. This would be great if you spoke to this. But what I'm trying to say, Steve, is it worth? We already saw this is a learning curve here. This is why I don't understand what's going on with the United States of America. He already had a term, right, where he had a chance. He orchestrated an insurrection, a bloody, deadly insurrection. He was accessory to an yes, he was. People died, police officers died, and then approximately 1,500 people who were violently storming the Capitol. And again, there were deaths, police officers, and then again, and then he pardoned them. And if that's not a dictator, if that's not a tyrannical fascist move, I don't know what. And if that doesn't disqualify somebody from being the president of the United States, good Lord in heaven, I don't know what does. So then we elected him again, knowing what he has done. Not to mention his many felony convictions.
But think about that, okay?
Yeah.
That's all we heard about was January 6th. That's all we heard about was about all this bad stuff that he said.
But isn't that a bad thing?
And he was still elected.
Yes.
He was still elected. Now, is that an indictment on the Democrat Party, or is that, a compliment towards him? I think it's still personal.
That's a call for our citizens to turn their brains on and go, hey, Do we want someone like that representing us as the president?
You guys, he was barely elected. He got 78.
Oh,
It was not
come
a-
on.
doesn't matter how many votes he
Come
got.
on.
That wasn't a mandate. It wasn't
He
a mandate.
increased the vote for every county in the United
No, but I
States
mean,
compared
well,
to the
it was
previous
not a
election.
mandate.
5%
He was not
more votes.
overwhelmingly
You've got to
elected.
be kidding.
I
he
mean-
won by 1.5% of the votes.
Yeah.
That's not.
Doesn't
That's-
matter if
that's
he
the
won by
numbers.
1.5%.
That's still winning the
0.5. I'm
popular
not a
vote,
fan
which
of his.
Republicans don't usually
Jim?
do.
I'm not a fan of his, but he still
Sabrina,
won.
thanks for pointing that 1.5%. That's
Yeah.
very, very important.
Yeah.
Everybody, in my opinion, forgets about that. It's not a mandate.
Yes.
It's
The
intentional.
thing,
All of their
again, going back to
It's
my
still
question
80
about the,
million Americans.
I think it was about
Well-
77.
but
Again, we're overlooking the obvious. We're overlooking the
But
elephant in the room.
I think I see what Steve's getting at too is that on the one hand, all this stuff that Trump is doing is all over the news, is all over everywhere. But when the other guy did it, it was okay. It wasn't on the news. Wait
a minute. When the other guy did what? Be
when the other
specific.
guy when the other guy was known as the deporter in chief, nobody protested.
So
Are you talking about Biden?
I
No,
think
I'm
he's
talking about Obama.
Obama.
Right. Did Obama give due process? Can you answer this, Sabrina?
Yes. My
Mostly,
understanding.
yes.
Mostly,
Look,
but
we have
not
to-
everybody.
yeah.
He was never accused of not following the constitutional requirement of due process.
Yes,
Exactly.
he was accused by the ACLU.
What?
Wait a minute. He was accused by the ACLU. The ACLU. Hold on a second. I lost my damn thing.
Well, it's okay. There may have been circumstances or instances where they didn't follow the law as required.
Right.
Trump is doing this as a national policy
Yes.
and sending these people to gulags in El Salvador with no due process. The Supreme Court was very clear. It was unanimous. You can't do that. And Trump is just ignoring what they've told him to do. So this question about how can one man get rid of the Constitution? You get rid of it by ignoring it. And that's what Trump is doing. You don't need to go through a formal amendment process if you act like it doesn't exist anyway. So if we are in a constitutional crisis. We have been since the Supreme Court ordered him to return Garcia Abrego, and he didn't do it.
I would argue we've been in a constitutional crisis for years. Not just the
Okay.
last few years, but many, many years.
My parents were illegal immigrants at one point. Or not my parents, my grandparents. So I'm a second generation in the United States. And when you look at a poll on CNN, I just seen like 2 or 3 days ago, where legal immigrants made the biggest jump from, it was like plus 38%, plus 38 in 2020 compared to now 40% side with Trump on this issue. Okay, that's kind of telling when legal immigrants are actually siding on this overwhelmingly.
What are they siding with him on?
With
What-
that there needs to be deportations, that there needs to be and this is where I think this is an indictment of the Democrats. This is what happens when you go too far one way. Now you're going too far the other way.
Exactly.
And it's.
I agree with that. I agree 100% with that.
Because I'll tell you, I'll be honest with you. I don't trust any of them. I think they all are in on it on themselves, and they're laughing at
Right.
us.
And if you go back to George Washington warned us in his final speech about the dangers of political parties. And now we as a country have become a nation of two parties, which is, in my opinion, is wrong. Way back when, in the 1800s and early 1900s, anybody could run for office. We would have 4 or 5 parties running for office. That's the way it should be, not just 2, where you've got this or that. But there are other parties out there. There's a Libertarian Party. There's the Green Party. There's the Constitution Party. But you don't hear about them because the government doesn't want you to.
No, because the Republican Party and the Democratic Party goes to court to make sure that those people don't get their names on the ballot.
Yeah.
Just like they did.
Yeah.
Just
They
like
hire
they did.
attorneys
That
to
is why the
circumvent our democracy.
Exactly. That's why the League of Women Voters got out of the presidential debate, running the presidential debates, because the Democrats and the Republicans said, Well, if
We
we
wanna
want
control
we
it.
want only these people.
Right.
When Ron Paul was running for president, they said, okay, you've got to meet this, and this, and this. Well, when he met those 4 criteria, guess what? They changed the freaking criteria again to keep him out of the debates.
Yeah.
You know what's the most upsetting to me about this whole immigration debate? We need to control our borders. There's no
Absolutely.
question. We can't support and feed and educate hundreds of billions of people. There's no question about that. And I've never seen a Democrat call for open borders in my life. That is a complete fallacy. I disagree with a lot that Biden did, but the one thing I keep going back to, they had a bipartisan bill.
Yes.
Thank you.
And I can't believe I'm going to quote Pence again.
Yes.
Pence authored this study when he was governor with another, I think it was the governor of Ohio. And they said, look, if we need immigrants in certain industries. We need them in our farms. We need people picking fruit. We need construction. We need healthcare. There are groups of workers that we don't have enough Americans that will take those jobs. That has been the truth for decades. And Pence said, look, if you're going to reform immigration, look at what industry needs the migrant workers and work with those. The cheese makers were going to revolt because they couldn't find enough people to work their plants. We haven't had any discussions about what industry we need more migrants to fill. We haven't had any discussion on what workers we actually need to import. Instead, we're doing this all wholesale. The bill that Langford introduced last year that Trump killed would have addressed all of this stuff. It would have looked at industry-specific migrant numbers, helped the farmers, helped the construction workers, helped the healthcare workers, and imposed reasonable limitations that are targeted toward our economy. None of that has happened. And Trump went in and killed that bill on purpose because he wanted to run on this, because he had some poll that said immigration is the one thing that pisses everyone off the most.
Yeah.
And he decided he was going to preserve that to run. And I think this whole thing was planned, which is why he killed that bill. And what a shame, because it had been 30 years. Remember the Crazy Eights? This was under McCain, and he's the one that had a fit over it. They were trying to impose immigration reform 20 years ago. The Republicans stopped it, again, because they wanted to run on it. So this is now 20 years later, we had another bill. Trump stopped it because he wanted to run on it. It's very frustrating because we do need to control our borders. We do need to have migrant workers in certain fields, particularly farming, and no one's having that discussion.
This has been a neglected issue for 50 years.
Yes,
They refuse to deal with it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
They refuse to deal with
Don
it.
and I were talking about this before the show. How first off, the campaigning platform was we're going to lock up criminals and gang members who are here illegally. Now it's turned into people who sometimes are even United States citizens, but people who are not criminals. They have no criminal history. They're paying taxes. They've been here for a long time, paying into our economy, and they're being whisked off the street with no due process. And Lord knows where they're ending up. And I mean, no other president truly, and I've researched this, and correct me if I'm wrong, Sabrina, has done that. Is that correct?
I've never seen no one has seen anything even close to what Trump is doing.
Certainly not to the scale of Trump.
And we need those folks. They do. Look, I've mentioned this on a podcast before, and I've told people off camera, off the air about this. I'm not going to name this gentleman. I have a neighbor who lives across the street from me. Lifelong Republican. Very conservative man. Doesn't like Trump. Can't stand him. That he doesn't know what has happened. He's like, my Republican Party has morphed. That's what he just doesn't recognize his Republican Party anymore. But never ever in his 76 years has this man ever thought about protesting, making a sign, doing anything, raising his voice. He saw no need. By the way, white cisgendered male. Just so you know, just to give you a background on him. So he's not a member of a disenfranchised or oppressed group. So he just, he's been a very, very privileged person. He's in the building trade, very, very comfortable person financially. He, for the first time ever, with what's going on in our country, made 2 protest signs when we first started having the protests on Saturday. And he was at Wicker Memorial Park holding those signs up. He's in the buildings trade. He said Trump keep your hands off our buildings, keep your hands off construction. And then the other one, he said, no dictators. And then he had a picture of him with just not a very, he drew a very, he looked like somebody stepped on an orange. So this man would never even have thought about doing that. He's been going every single weekend and doing this with his friends in the building industry, all Republicans, all right-wing Republicans. They're disgusted at what's happening. So if people can just see that this is really not even a political issue at this point. This is like saving a free nation to me.
I think people need to remember too is, you say, I'm voting for the lesser of two evils. Voting for the lesser of two evils is still evil. So we need to get away from that. We need to open up our elections and allow more people to we need different people.
Well, being beholden to the billionaires. It's in the both
We talked about
parties.
that. Remember that?
We had our chance with Sanders, and he got kicked to the curb. So,
you mean the millionaire Sanders? That guy?
Now he is, yeah. Because I used to like Sanders too.
No,
I liked Sanders. I liked Ross Perot.
He's a socialist. But
Sanders, I don't know. This past year,
I see Ross Perot's. What people are posting Ross Perot's words.
Yeah,
and,
man, I used to love him.
Yeah, he was awesome.
Until
they threatened to kill his family.
Me and Connie talked about this at that one show.
Yes.
Everything changed during Obama's administration when the Supreme Court ruled that
the Supreme Court makes opinions, not rulings.
That's true.
Kings
but
make rulings.
They offered an opinion that you could not limit these PACs on money.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That was the beginning of the end.
That was the beginning of the end.
It was
$1 billion.
Yes.
For an election.
When they said corporations were people.
What?
And that is
United. The root of everything wrong, in my opinion. I ran for federal office in 2020. You spend 20 hours a day what they call dialing for dollars, asking for money.
Oh, absolutely. I did the same thing when I ran for office.
United allowed money to make our political decisions. Citizens United is the core of the rot of everything that's going wrong. Even Fox News, with their nonstop propaganda trying to support Trump, that's about fossil fuels. That's about their money. That's about Murdoch's investment in oil and gas. Any media that is owned by corporations, which is almost all of them now, except for NPR and PBS, they have profit interests that they are trying to protect. Bezos in the Washington Post, the guy who runs Sun-Un in LA Times, they have corporate financial profits to protect.
Yep.
That's why they are spinning their news. And that's why Fox is 24/7 propaganda. It's all Citizens United that allows money and corporate interests to control our politics. And if we don't get rid of that, we're never going to have truth in advertising with the fairness doctrine, which we need to bring back. They can do it in other countries. England has something like what we used to have with the fairness doctrine, where if you presented one side of an argument, you had to present the other side. Yeah. If they can do it, why can't we?
Right.
And I put Citizens United and propaganda at the root of everything wrong.
Yep, I agree with that.
I agree with that too.
I've ran for office myself, and trying to raise money is what I spent most of my time doing.
Exactly.
And we have people, right? We have people in the government now. Ask yourself this: we have people who are in Congress who spend millions of dollars to get a job that pays $125,000 a year.
Right.
They go into Congress for a couple years. They go into Congress for a couple years, make $125,000, but come out multimillionaires.
Yeah.
How is that? What?
Yeah, that's sickening.
Yeah.
Awful.
And that's
have to get money out of politics.
Oh, absolutely.
So I'm not exactly, I would not call myself a dyed-in-the-wool liberal. I have more of a Republican background than Democrat. But the number one reason I'm supporting Democrats now is because we have to repeal Citizens United. You cannot have a law on the books that says corporations and wealthy people get to dictate your politics.
Absolutely.
We can't recover from this. I feel like we're at end stage political capitalism because of Citizens United. I feel like we're at the end stage, and that if nothing else, Trump will wake up the 90 million people who didn't bother to vote, and we will reverse Citizens United. From that, we can have all kinds of policy discussions. I come down on conservative side on a lot of the fiscal stuff. But if you don't get money out of politics, it really doesn't matter, because industries like Fox News and the corporate-owned media are going to lie to you and tell you what they want you to hear to promote their own profits.
Absolutely.
So there is
what does it say? What does it say about our system when Fox News, Murdoch, can say, yeah, well, you know what? We spent 5 years lying to you. We don't give a damn. We'll pay your, what was it, $800 million fine?
Yeah, to Dominion, yep.
You know.
But they all lie. That and it doesn't make it right.
You know,
but they all lie to
it's
support their
all
agenda.
about the money.
It's all about
I can
all lie
buy
to the same
whatever
degree.
I want to buy because I've got enough dollars.
Yeah.
You know, what was it, $25 million for Musk in the Wisconsin Supreme Court election?
Oh, yeah.
Just
Yeah.
gone.
Unsuccessful. Oh, and
You
I'm
know.
so glad you segued to and that you mentioned Musk, because I think what's going on right now with the attempt to federalize, well, he actually has federalized our troops in
Yes.
LA, in Los Angeles, California, is a diversionary tactic because Musk basically claimed in, I think, a tweet. I don't know if they're called tweet anymore. It's on X
that
now.
was so
The
bad.
X.
Did you see
that,
it?
That Trump is in the Epstein files. And then
Oh.
what do
I
you
don't
know?
doubt that.
What do you
That
know?
was so
What do you know?
bad.
Now we find
Now we got
ourselves
troops on the streets in LA.
Yes. How about,
like I said,
isn't-
it's always a distraction from
Yes.
what's really going on.
so
It's
this-
interesting about that particular item because this implies some kind of a sexual innuendo. We already been through that with Trump, so I don't see where it's going to go. I don't know. Maybe it's really blatant. But anyway, that's...
So the city,
right.
just so our
I didn't
audience
care the
knows,
first time, you know.
just so our audience knows what we're referring to with Citizens United, it was a landmark decision of the of SCOTUS, and it was Citizens United versus the Federal Election Commission, 558 U.S. 310. It was a 2010 landmark case, and it regarded campaign finance laws in which the court found that laws restricting the political spending of corporations and unions are inconsistent with the free speech clause of the First Amendment to the United States Constitution. It was a narrow ruling. Apparently, it was just 5-4. The Supreme Court's 5-4 ruling in favor of Citizens United sparked significant controversy, with some viewing it as a defense of American principles of free speech and a safeguard against government overreach, while
year was
others criticized it as promoting corporate personhood and granting disproportionate political power to large corporations.
It's the worst ruling we've ever had, in my opinion,
Yeah.
because it allows money to dictate who gets in office. Think about that. That's why they want to get rid of regulations, and they want to get rid of anything that regulates the banks or any threat to money is what the very wealthy people will be able to prevent. So I don't see any way out of this until we get rid of Citizens United.
Yeah.
Yeah. And and you think about it too. They I don't care what side of the aisle they're on, but behind the scenes, they're all for the same thing themselves.
And think about what we could do with that money. How many hundreds of millions of dollars are spent on federal elections? Hell, we could fix our education system if we didn't allow that money to be spent on elections.
Yeah.
Spend it where it counts. Let's do something substantive with that money and get money out of politics. If you want to know where a candidate stands on an issue, read his damn bio, read his position statement, go online and read what he has to say about
Thank you.
the subjects.
Thank
you
you,
don't
yes.
need to have 25 commercials every
Oh, my
episode
God.
of Cheers that you're watching talking about these bazoons.
Yeah.
You have to get money out of politics. There's no stronger way to say it. And until we do, I don't see a way forward.
It would be interesting. I wonder if it would really disrupt the economy because how many billions of dollars are spent in advertising? If we could eliminate that and
Yes.
put it all towards all the things you just listed,
Yeah.
Right.
to improve the nation. But then how many people would be out of work?
Yeah.
Well, that's the media. I mean, and that's a very good point. The media has exploded exponentially since
Absolutely.
Citizens United because we created a new economy. But they can do other things. They can do other kinds of work.
Yes.
They don't have to, do political proselytizing. There are constructive things these fine minds could be used for.
Can I ask you a question? How can we repeal that? Like
You have to get. I'm sorry, but like I said, I'm more Republican Democrat in a lot of ways. But I'm gunning for a Democrat supermajority to change the composition of the Supreme Court. You can't allow this law to continue on the books. You have to get rid of it.
That's
The existing
probably the
composition.
quickest
They're
way.
not going to change it. These
Yeah.
people are not going to. The people on
Right.
the court right now. I mean, he just added 3 more Federalists to the court that all support Citizens United. So you have to either stack the court, which it has a lot of problems. I'm not saying this is a panacea, but you got 9 members and we have 14 judicial districts. There should be 14 Supreme Court justices, not 9. Yeah. And once you have a rebalanced Supreme Court that's not 6-3 Republican, and I mean extreme Republican, you have to have a more balanced court. And once you do that, they will re-examine Citizens United. Someone will bring a case saying, whatever. Someone should be suing Musk for what he did in Wisconsin. Someone is suing him over the lottery that he ran to get Trump elected. Someone will bring a case under the new composition of the Supreme Court and ask them to revisit Citizens United and get it overturned.
So the only way you can repeal it is through the Supreme Court again?
Do you ever think we'll ever have more than 9 justices? I mean, that's what we've had as long as I can remember. Do you ever think we will ever have more than 9?
If we have enough of a supermajority in Congress, we will definitely add more members to the court. We have 14 judicial districts. 9 is not a magic number.
Oh, I agree.
They have increased the numbers before. And it should be at least 14.
And what do you think about the lifetime appointment of Supreme Court judge or any judge of judges?
Yeah, I don't like that either.
I think there should be term limits.
I agree.
Limits than anything else.
I think all of them should have term limits.
If we can have term limits in the presidency, why can't we have term limits on everybody?
Yeah.
But exactly. When I was running, I ran for that. That was one of my key things when I ran for office. And people would say, well, we have term limits. It's called the election. If it works so well for we do it for the president.
Not for the Supreme Court.
Right. We need it for all of that. If we can do it for the president, we can do it for everyone.
And that an election depends upon who engages and participates in it.
Absolutely.
If we had people showing up, if there wasn't voter apathy, I don't believe we would have the current president that we have.
I don't think we would have a lot of the things we have right now.
Right.
If people, because so many people, my vote doesn't matter. Really, you can pull up right now all these instances over the past, say, 10 or 20 years where one vote did matter. One person changed policy in their local, because the federal government. It used to be the federal government didn't affect your everyday life like your local does. Your school board, your city council, your county council. Those affect everyday things that happen to you, whereas the federal government is very farly removed from our day-to-day lives. We're supposed to be exactly
relegated in the distance. Anything not specifically granted to Congress is supposed to be reserved to the states. This administration has upended all of that, and now we've got the federal government in your face, in your streets, 24/7 on the news. And he's creating spectacle for that reason. It's revolting. It's disturbing. It's affecting everyone's sleep. It's crazy.
It's affecting my life and everybody else's, I think, too. And it makes me sick at times. And, for a party that is supposed to be all about not having the government up in your business, oh, my goodness, are they ever. And speaking of one vote, Donna, there is another landmark case, a landmark decision, Oberfell versus Hodges, and that is a decision of SCOTUS, which ruled that and Wiki says that the Supreme Court rules. But
anybody can put anything in Wiki they want.
So Sabrina, does the Supreme Court does it make opinions, findings, or rulings? What's the delineation?
The practical effect is the same. I think you're splitting hairs. You're right. They don't rule because they're not governors. They're issuing opinions, but then those affect the rules. So the practical distinction really isn't there. What they say is the law, and then the rules accommodate whatever that ruling is or that opinion. I don't see it as an important distinction.
Okay. Go ahead.
Practical effect, it's the law.
Okay. So, but Oberfell, I wanted to talk about this because we recently interviewed a U.S. Navy veteran named Amy, who is a transgender individual. And the Oberfell versus Hodges SCOTUS case, that landmark decision, guaranteed, it was from 2015, guaranteed the fundamental right to marry to same-sex couples. By both the Due Process Clause and the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment of the Constitution. That was also a 5-4 ruling, just like Citizens United. So The 5-4 ruling requires all 50 states, the District of Columbia, and the insular areas to perform and recognize the marriages of same-sex couples on the same terms and conditions as the marriages of opposite-sex couples with equal rights and responsibilities. And prior to Obergefell, same-sex marriage had already been established by statute, court ruling, or voter initiative in 36 states, the District of Columbia, and Guam. And so, I'm kind of concerned because I'm going to mention Pete Hegseth's name now, the defense secretary, because, not only has it been established by so many people that he's grossly underqualified for what he's doing, and he tried to cover up his gross security breach with the signal chats on several occasions, he's also trying to rename 8 naval ships. And this is this is a military. I'm reading not from a left-leaning news outlet. I'm reading a military.com article here. It says Hegseth wants to rename 8 naval ships. Here are the stories behind their namesakes. He wants to rename ships that bear the names of folks who have given of their blood, sweat, and tears for the United States, either civil rights activists, also serving in the military. And it's just kind of disturbing that there seems to be, just from the Secretary of Defense, such a hatred toward individuals based upon their statuses. And, Hegseth has directed the Navy to rename 8 of these ships. They are the United States Navy ship Harvey Milk, the Lucy Stone, the Dolores Huerta, Thurgood Marshall, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, Medgar Evers.
And with everything going on in the country right now, this is what he's worried about?
Yes. This is what he's worried about.
That's bizarre.
This is, I think, another. Not only is it hateful, and let me add something about Harvey Milk. He was a gay activist, but it goes far beyond that. Far, far, far beyond that, what he did for his country. He served honorably, okay? Yes, he was a noted gay rights icon and activist, but he's known for his work in the 70s to advance civic reforms that affected a wide cross-section of constituents. Not only LGBTQ people, women, racial and ethnic minorities, but he was a dedicated public servant. I want to talk about briefly his distinguished honorable military service. He served in the Navy as a diving officer, saw action. He was a combat veteran in Korean War, and his military records always listed him as a good leader, outstanding, and very good officer material. He was forced to resign or be court-martialed after accusations of homosexuality and is listed with an other than honorable discharge because of it, despite his stellar service. Later, when given the option to have Milk's discharge changed, his family refused, his nephew saying the designation would, quote, teach our history to prevent ourselves from going backwards and repeating it, unquote. And, all of these folks who he wants to rename the ships bearing their names, it's a travesty. And this is the Secretary of Defense. So not only is it mean-spirited and hateful, I don't know where it's creating a hatred in this country.
Has he said why he wants to do that?
That's part of the DEI initiative. Go ahead. Yeah, please do, Sabrina, please.
My opinion, and I think it's backed up by everything they have done, since Hegseth has been nominated, this is intentional. He's attacking gay people, black people, brown people, and women because they are trying to instigate riots. There's no reason to rename monuments, ships, whatever. But to me, that's looking at 1 or 2 trees and missing the entire forest. Hegseth and Trump are asking for $1 trillion in the defense budget. At the same time, they are saying we're not going to honor our NATO alliances. We're not going to back Ukraine. We're not going to be involved in foreign entanglements. What is that $1 trillion for? He is saying we're going to bring all those troops home and station them in American cities. They want $1 trillion to train the military on U.S. citizens. That is the outrage, not renaming these ships and all this diversion that they're trying to put in place to cause riots. They want the riots. They want to be able to put military tanks on the street. What's that $1 trillion for when he's saying we're not going to get involved in any other wars? We've even turned our back on Ukraine. trillion to attack American citizens who are protesting on the streets. Get your head around that. It's not about renaming ships. It's about what they're doing to American cities.
I always thought it was really short-sighted when they were going to take down the picture in the Pentagon of the Enola Gay.
Yeah, because of the name.
Classic
Exactly.
World War II,
Really?
icon. Yeah. Oh, you haven't heard
Because
that?
it has gay in the title.
Because it's got
Algorithms.
Oh my God.
Algorithms removed anything that had the word gay in it.
Wow.
Yes.
I had no
And-
idea. Wow, I missed that one.
As I understand it, Enola Gay was the pilot, and I can't remember
No,
his name.
It was the
was the
plane.
name.
it was the bomber that dropped the bomb, the nuclear
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
but I mean, he named the plane after his
mother.
mom.
Yes. Oh, yes.
And
yeah.
her
Buried
name
his
was
mother's name.
Enola Gay, whatever, Patterson or something.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh my God.
I mean, where's the gray matter?
Yeah.
Where's it? I don't get it.
Those
Well-
are intentional distractions. He wants
yeah.
people.
Yeah,
he
yes,
wants people
absolutely.
riding.
One of the
But as
Doge.
soldiers, I want to ask you seriously, as soldiers, you are all military and veteran backgrounds. What is that $1 trillion for when he is pledged to not spend a dime of it defending our allies?
Oh,
Yeah,
good
I-
question.
Excellent question.
I could tell you exactly where it's going. It's going to these private companies
Yes.
that
Well-
are being hired by the
Blackwater.
Department of Defense. Mm-hmm. That's where it's going.
That's where it's going.
You have cooks that train to go in the military as cooks, right? But they don't cook when they're overseas.
No, it's
You have
contractors.
KBR cooking.
Right.
That's where
Our
the
mi-
money's going.
there's too many
Waste.
contractors in the military. That's a whole other podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly, and it's worth looking at because that's part
Absolutely.
of Citizens United too.
Yes.
The money from Blackstone and the Department of Defense contractors and Elon Musk, the people who are getting money from the Department of Defense are controlling the outcome of our elections.
Yep.
Right. And,
Again, under Citizens United,
and it goes back to what you said about the money in politics because
Mm-hmm.
it's to support those companies that donate to their campaigns. You've got Boeing, you've got Blackwater, you've got all these companies that make billions of dollars from the U.S. government from defense contracts. Oh, but then they also donate. When I was running, I looked at my opponent's where he was getting his money from. His money didn't come from Northwest Indiana. His money came from defense contractors.
yeah.
And
From California and
from
Texas
California and everywhere else.
Yeah.
So that goes right back to what she was saying about getting the money out of politics. It all goes back to that.
Yeah.
Folks, I'm going to cite this article, and it's from NPR, and this cuts directly to this conversation. This is an NPR article. You can find it at npr.org, and it's titled Former Doge, Department of Government Efficiency, Engineer Says Federal Waste and Tax Fraud Were Relatively Non-Existent. It's from... Yes. It's actually
That's
an interview,
laughable.
a podcast interview on All Things Considered. You can find it at NPR. And I'm going to read this briefly to you. A former employee of the Department of Government Efficiency says that he found that the federal waste, fraud, and abuse that his agency was supposed to uncover, and by the way, this gentleman was fired for speaking to the media, big surprise, supposed to uncover were relatively non-existent during his short term embedded within the Department of Veterans Affairs. He says, quote, I was personally pretty surprised, actually, at how efficient the government was, unquote, says Sahil Lavinia. Sahil-Lavingia. I'm probably butchering this gentleman's name. Anyway, he told this to NPR's Juana Summers. So Lavingia was a successful software developer and the founder of Gumroad, a platform for online sales, when he joined Doge in March of this year. Lavingia said he had previously sought to work for the U.S. Digital Service, the technology unit that was renamed and restructured by the Trump administration. He told NPR that he just wanted to make government websites easier for citizens to use and didn't really care which presidential administration he was working for, despite protests from his friends and family. So when he got the overall message at Doge that it was going to be about transparency and a vibe of ask for forgiveness, not permission, he got excited. So when a bigger blogger asked for an interview about Gumroad, he agreed, and when he was asked, he talked about his work at Doge, including how little inefficiency he saw compared to what he was expecting. Quote, Elon Musk was pretty clear about how he wanted Doge to be maximally transparent, unquote. Well, that's something that he said in private to all of his Doge members, right? Not publicly. But then he thought, okay, cool, I'll take him at his word, and I will be transparent. And when he was transparent and told the truth, boom, he was out the door. So this is about not finding any waste or fraud. They're taking money, all these massive firings, these cutting programs, freezing funding, which was congressionally mandated. Yes, we're running out of time, which was congressionally mandated, is about taking away from the lower middle class, giving tax breaks to billionaire oligarchs. That's what's going on here. There was no waste and fraud. This man who was working on Doge, it was a team member, said it himself.
Well, so when the government, our Congress, had a chance to make the Doge cuts, all these cuts, billions of dollars permanent. You know who voted yes to make it permanent? Thomas Massey again and Ryan Paul. You know who voted no? Everybody else. So it was all smoke and mirrors. It was all.
I agree with that. And again, it's like the immigration debate. We're missing the forest for the trees.
Yeah.
There is some excess in federal government. I've worked government adjacent for 40 years. There is some waste. I would guess between 5 and 10% could be cut safely and efficiently and make it make more sense. But instead of doing that, instead of figuring out what these agencies did, who did what, and how could it be more efficient with systems or whatever, he went in and got rid of entire offices of people who he didn't like.
Right.
So it's a shame because we could have a more efficient federal government. There's no question.
He did it nilly-willy and got rid of a lot of good people. And it's a yes. And
I've got opportunity.
Yes. We have to wrap up now here with our time. I am so grateful that all of you came here and we talked about these very important things affecting our country and not just our veterans. We're going to have a second. I think I want to continue this as a series. And we'll continue the conversation at another time. Sabrina and Jim, will you come back on the show?
I guess I'll have to. Is there a way I can get out of it? Connie? No.
You'll see me at the coffee house.
Exactly.
Again. You can't lose face with me.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much. Donna, thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome.
My friend,
Glad
Steve,
I was able to be here.
Yeah. Thanks for... Yeah.
We're learning from each other.
And Sabrina, thank you.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you for your time.
Expertise.
You too. Thank you.
Good conversation. I like that we are able to disagree in an intelligent way.
Absolutely.
Yes. That's the essence.
Oh,
If we can get everyone doing that and just playing a part. Civil discourse.
The biggest thing is the communication.
Yeah.
So many times, I mean, there's a lot of situations between the parties, and I've run into a couple of times when it's like, no, man, we're gonna take you down, Republican. But talk to me about what your problem is, and maybe we can work something out.
Right.
Everybody, my best message is be kind. Let's bring kindness and being loving to our neighbor. That basic foundation, welcoming people back to our country, and not label people as the enemy and just this hatred. I just want to, if we could bring back the feeling of togetherness post 9/11, like we've been talking about. Oh my goodness, we're all in this together. Everybody's going through something. Be kind out there to everybody, no matter what. Even if somebody cuts you off on the road, it's a chain reaction. Be kind as much as you can. And this is the amazing United States of America. And let's preserve our rule of law, our Constitution. And I think we can do that. I know we can do that. So everybody go out there, be the best you can, be as kind as you can, and we'll see you again soon.
Protest tomorrow, no King's Day. Show up.
No King's Day. Yes, across the country. Yes.
Important. This may be the last time we can protest, so you better do it.
Okay. Yes, good point. Thank you, Sabrina. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
The views expressed by guest and host of Veterans Views podcast do not necessarily represent the views of WJOB and JED TV staff, Veteran Views contributors and sponsors, and the American Legion. Thank you for listening.